Hey guys, welcome back. We are continuing to change the scenery on you, maybe keep it fresh. We did vow as of last time to try to get together as opposed to working on the Skype screens and interrupting each other to hopefully bring us all together, make this thing flow a little bit better, make it a little more entertaining, understandable, and flow better for you guys. So we're back. Here we are. We're calling it Outlier Podcast.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. We're here in the Bristol gym, if you didn't already recognize. Thanks for tuning in. What we wanted to do this time was pretty much similar to our theme last go around, catch you up on a couple announcements and things that are just on the horizon for us as a gym and in the community, both in Morristown and Bristol. And then also use our hour or so to digest or maybe unpack a podcast that we recently listened to. And this one actually involves exactly what we do every day in here. And this one is specific to interval training and high intensity training and some of the benefits that it brings us as individuals and athletes, etc. So with that being said, that's the rough itinerary. We'll just riff for a second. Justin, Steve, Galen, I almost said Justin again. How we doing, fellas? Thanks for making the journey.
Yeah, kind of thought we weren't going to be able to make the journey. The weather was legit. Yeah, couldn't see out of the windshield.
We actually rode our way here.
Yeah, basically.
That's why I got here so fast. Galen was on the rowing team.
That's it.
Got here faster than the Toyota Camry.
Stroke.
Justin, how are you?
I'm good. A little sore from the week, but other than that, good.
We're coming off of the week that is the mini Murphs on Monday, the heavy tempo deadlifts on Tuesday, and then the biking push press work on Wednesday. So if you're like us, you're probably feeling the delayed effects of Monday and the compounding effects of the other days. Yeah. We're beat up, and you guys probably are too. So,
yeah. Thankful for today's workout.
Yeah,
for sure.
Recovered a little bit. Justin's done a good job diving into the programming world.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, that's kind of a quarterly shift that we'll continue to work with. And Justin's programming always hits the mark for people.
I was going to say, I'm still feeling Saturday. That's how old I am.
Oh, the weightlifting.
Yeah.
Look at that segue. Well done. That's fun to talk about. We're coming off of Morristown's 14 year. You guys want to dive into that?
I think those two should dive into the fact
that makes more sense.
14 years, yeah.
I'm not good at diving.
Let's let the torch bearers. You want to belly flop into that one?
I can do that. Go ahead, G.
Well, we're not synchronized divers. We're more like belly floppers, figured out how to land in a way that's least damaging. But as you guys know, we held something like a weightlifting meet. It was our best version to put it on in a hurry. We had 20 odd lifters participate, tons of PRs. These two guys in the middle put on a show.
There's
put on another show.
That's it right there.
Successful day, celebrating 14 years with the way we know best, which is to lift weights. Next year will be a totally different thing. I'm already cooking up some ideas to celebrate our decade and a half, but for this year, I thought it went really well. Lots of big lifts. I know Emma Miller, who's a great lifter, notwithstanding Saturday, PR'd her clean and jerk, which just doesn't even make sense to me.
Crazy.
And then handfuls of other folks PR'd their lifts as well. Jordy won. Taryn, you hit some really polished technical lifts, if you ask me.
The GOAT.
It's been a while.
Steve did well for Steve. Yeah.
No boy.
He did just as much as I expected, which is always a high bar for a strong man. It was good time. And I think that there were some sparks of interest that are now burning into some potential future interest this fall, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Amongst the ladies.
We had a lot of lady turnout, and like you said, a lot of bell ringing in Morristown. We have a gong up here, but they have a bell down there for PR, but like freaking awesome girls. Very, very good.
Yeah, so hats off to you guys. Thanks for participating. 14 years of our fumbles. I always like to say we fumble more than we score, but we've made our way in the proper direction well enough to hold your attention and see some decent result.
Seems like we kind of go in a cycle too. It's like back in the day, like 2015 was kind of weightlifting, get more into kind of fitness. Now we're going back more to weightlifting, kind of a cyclical gym life, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And love to see the masters picking up a barbell and qualifying like Galen and them did. So
yeah, and Robbie did really well. I'm trying to think of everybody else who lifted, but
Aaron Iverson
Aaron
also.
Iverson.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Zane first meet, went 5 for 6 and just pressed out on his last jerk, or it would have been 6 for 6 in his very first meet, PR'd both of his lifts.
Go watch the Instagram and Facebook videos. Like, everyone had some awesome lifts, and I'd say over half had at least one PR.
I would
right?
think so.
Yeah,
I would
easily.
Think, I think greater than 70%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was really nice.
And that's all on the heels of that squatting Helen workout that we did too. So
Yes.
nervous system was a little bit muted based on what it could potentially have expressed. So all things considered, all those swirling variables, we didn't taper, we didn't train for it specifically. Really good output.
Speaking of nervous system, in a different way, it was my first experience, and I was so nervous. I think I tried to, cloak it by acting silly while walking up there and cutting up a little bit, but my heart rate was probably through the roof stepping up to that first lift.
That's part of it.
I hit my opener in the back as crisp as I probably ever wanted to, walked out there, and it was a whole different world.
Now-
And I'm looking out into a crowd of people that I know and recognize, and I'm being judged by my friends and other coaches and stuff. So I can only imagine if your first experience was stepping out onto like a USAW like experience. That was formal enough, but informal in the eyes of what I would expect a weightlifting event to be. And I was so nervous.
Did the
But it was
bar
a good
feel
experience.
heavier or lighter?
It was different because it
Or faster?
faster. I think I was a little
behind you.
adrenaline dump.
Yeah.
The hips are a lot more. And I missed my second snatch. I think as a result of thinking I needed to dive under it too quick when the pull was even higher than I thought it was going to be. So it kind of crashed and I was off balance. So it was one of those. Definitely a good little learning experience. So for anyone that was their first experience, I was with you. I was nervous as can be too, and didn't really know how to handle it. But
And if you want to plant the seed, I think October is ETSU's Stone Age. Is it Stone Age? Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what we
think
looked
so.
up
There's Stone
on.
Age or
Handle
or
is-
handle.
Yeah, I think this one was
Handle
Stone.
barbell.
So the fall meet at the mini dome.
Do it.
If Karen does it, I'll do it. And if I do it, Steve do it. And Steve does it.
I'll coach.
Attaboy,
In
Chad.
video. I'll coach in video.
No, it's fun. I'm about to
I'll
say
do
we-
it if you'll design my program
Ooh.
There we
There we go.
leading to it.
How many weeks?
How many would you design it for?
18.
At least 3 days.
And does it start with nutrition protocol?
I'll do that.
Cool. Yeah, that makes me
I'll do it.
excited.
That'd be fun.
Those are fun. I was going to say, we've done countless ETSU meets over the years. I was going to say, there was one time they were like way behind on schedule. We lifted, sorry, it's not going to happen this time. I'm just saying it did happen once. We were lifting a clean and jerk like at 10 o'clock at night.
9, 10 o'clock.
And then y'all probably showed up that morning at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a long day of
Oh
hanging
my
out in an auditorium or
I
in
think there were
the
2 or
mini-
3 men's sessions, right? There were so many people in.
Trying to fit everybody
Guys,
else.
if you go back on our YouTube, like you can scroll back and there's a few videos of the weightlifting meets that we used to do back in the day. So if you want to see us 8 years younger,
Yeah, we'll now.
Still don't matter.
I was going to say with or without hair, still
clean
did
and
it. You can hear Trista's commentary too. She was behind the camera on some of them. She's like, "Oh yay!"
Can't beat that.
Yeah, see her feet going like this.
That was fun though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. And as Galen alluded to, some of the goal for that was to carry that spark and maybe turn it into a bit of a flame to return back to the stage and get people back out west if they host it out west this year.
I think it's Philadelphia.
Philly. Oh,
is it?
wow.
Wow, even better.
Okay, cool. That'd be a good experience. So,
We went there. Thad, when he qualified for junior national.
Also,
Shout out Thad.
highlights from that. He went 6 for 6 and made some incredible lifts.
Yeah.
Mighty young Thad, a mere
Stud.
17, 18
what a
years
stud
old.
he was.
Still super strong from what I can tell. And coaching some, maybe in Jeff City, I think.
I think so, yeah.
He's in the military, so hats off to you, Thad. If you listen, I'm sure you are. All the best. We miss you.
Awesome. Well, also, what could we have on the horizon? I guess the first thing coming up here
Bristol Burnout.
is the burnout.
Yep.
So we tell folks here in Bristol, Morristown, you've probably heard it too. If you're looking for one of, if not the biggest, most well-organized local competition, I'd be willing to stick my neck out there and say that in years past that has been it. So if you're liking the idea of taking your fitness and putting it to the test, or testing yourself out with a team, then consider that. Also, and this is for you, Betsy, if you're interested in helping that big event, obviously it takes a lot of people to run something like that. Unfortunately, we're kind of pulled in a few different directions this year and we won't be nearly as involved on site. But if you're interested in helping, on Wattify, we'll leave it there. There's links to sign up to judge and to volunteer for that. The more the merrier.
Yes.
It can be something as simple as, taking weights off and putting weights on a bar kind of thing, or as intricate as entering scores and being a, scorekeeper or judging. So there's something for everyone. So all the help that they can get, I'm sure they would be grateful for. What's the date on that again, remind me?
August 24th.
There you go. So,
And
happy August, by the way.
Yeah, it's for the kids, guys. So all that money goes to the Bristol Speedway Children's Charity. They raise $20,000+. So please do that if you can. It's a fun time. And if you've never competed and we push ourselves in here, but until you actually get in a competition, you don't really realize how hard you can push. And that'll kind of linger into here and let you go a little bit more, I would say. So it's a really interesting thing.
It's an education on the gear that you've not yet summoned, that is there, but you've yet to learn its existence.
Yep. And sometimes a really good tool to help you uphold proper standards as well.
Yes.
Getting put in those kind of spotlights. Sometimes we get caught up in moving fast and competing with the person next to us, but if you have someone standing over top of you, especially if you have a detailed judge, it's a really good option.
We're not talking
We
about
all move perfectly, especially on workouts named Cindy.
I was getting ready to say, geez.
Cindy is salty with this old dog. Salty about Cindy. You know who you are. You've been in my classes.
I was feathering it in there.
Just put it on a tee.
Galen did
Doing some salt
a home
sauce.
run. Awesome. So that's coming up also in the month of September here in Bristol. We're always a part of and bring a heck of a crowd too. If you've ever been to Bristol, I don't know if you can see it all the way on the back wall there. So we have multiple pictures, plaques, a couple medals that they have in years past presented to us after the event. But the 9/11 Stair Climb is a great fundraiser in this area to actually raise funds for families of fallen first responders and firefighters. And in years past, we've been the biggest, if not one of the biggest supporters of that by the sheer volume of people that sign up and pay their money to go and participate in that event. Pretty cool too. If you're not familiar with it, they use the racetrack and the structure of it and the stairwells and down into the stairs of the bowl itself. They play the radio traffic of that day over the loudspeaker across the whole racetrack. So it's kind of moving, and you got a lot of firefighters in full kit, full gear, and so that's a cool way to equal parts test your fitness.
That's so cool.
And raise money and show support and not forget, what happened on that day. So that's coming up, and that's actually on a Saturday.
I'm looking it up right now.
7th, I think.
I think it's the 7th.
Yeah.
September 7th.
Yeah.
Which is not really the Roots weekend for you Bristol people, so it's really nice.
In years past, it was like the Saturday after the
It is the
Friday.
Okay. Yeah. But guys, that's awesome. If you're one of these people, if you're Galen and you like to hike multiple 14,000 peaks in a few days, this is a good one for you because it is very much like a really steep hike all day. Your calves are going to be sore for about 3 or 4 days afterwards, but it's a really fun thing. You're looking about an hour to hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer, and it's also scalable. Last year, I think it was 3 laps through. So if you want to stop at 1 lap and just do a third, you can do that, or you can do 2/3, you can do the full thing. But it's awesome experience. Tough cardio, aerobic day. You'll get sore, but it's really good camaraderie. They play the bagpipes. They 21 gun salute. It's so cool.
And we've had ages from folks bringing their kids to, we've seen plenty of.
Yeah, Abram did it last year, I think. Yeah.
And then on
He
the
did it
other
with me a couple years ago. He
Yeah. Oh, he stayed with you the whole
Ben and
time?
I the whole time. Man, this kid's a stud. Who is this?
He's
Now I
awesome.
know who he is.
Yeah.
He's on today's post.
And there you go. And then some of our most tenured members, we'll say it that way, have also participated. So
Sherry did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's folks of the whole scale out there doing it. So it is for everyone, and you move at your own pace. Keep up with Galen if you can.
You can, but
Also,
it's a log jam the whole time. You mostly
it does
just
turn
lockstep
into
the
a bit
whole
of a log
time.
jam.
a lot of people wear vests or rucksacks. They have some firefighters in full kit. But it's a tough. Like if you want to wear anything like that, please do. Please come and join us, Morristown. Get some more Morristown people. We had probably 20 plus from Bristol last year, so get some more Morristown people down.
There seems to be a bubble of interest this year. Katya's
Okay, good.
what Katya does, applying appropriate doses of peer pressure. So I look for their
Kayla turns the dial. Steve drops the hammer.
Oh, yeah. They're both happening.
Katya cast.
Depends on the person. Shout out Katya.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do.
National champion.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, that's, I guess, is that our only announcements?
Baby shower.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
To break teeth.
18th. Is that what it is?
August 18th.
August 18th.
August 18th.
Let the man just, I don't know anything about it.
Linked in your email. Obviously, we want to shower Justin and Robin with all forms of love in the form of physical things. So be here, gift them the things that they want or don't want, or all things.
Does the link have the Amazon?
Should be linked to the, I think there's a QR code on the,
If not, I can send it to
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
and it's all obviously posted up here, but it lives in the brief email until that day passes.
Robin sent me a screenshot this morning. It is 90 days away today.
Oh, wow.
It's cool. From the, not the shower, but the actual baby. It's
cool.
Yeah. Wow.
There you are.
Close and close.
Countdown begins. Life will be not what it is now.
It'll be more meaningful.
Yeah, I think so.
That's right.
Sure, I like to hear.
Get Terry to catch that baby fever, be awesome.
He's gonna catch the baby.
We're gonna do a team workout in the delivery room. We're that close. Oh gosh.
Robin.
If the contrast isn't picking up, my face is 6 shades of red darker.
No.
That's funny. Well, let's dig into some maybe educational opportunity for you. We're not, again, we probably said this on the last one when we broke down Andrew Huberman's podcast. We're not the experts in the room, really, ever. But we are hopefully halfway decent at intaking and relaying information to you, so you don't have to sit down and sieve through long format podcasts. We can maybe link the podcast to this if you want to dig in. Dr. Rhonda Patrick actually just recently visited a CrossFit event. It was a summit for CrossFit, correct?
CrossFit Health, yeah.
Yep, and gave a presentation on information that's pretty near and dear to us because we believe in the concepts and the principles of performing intense workouts responsibly. And she broke down, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of the health benefits, the cardiovascular benefits, the anti-aging benefits, the blood pressure benefits, so on and so forth. And what we want to do now is just find some things that we found to be interesting and try to relay those to the best of our ability to you in as much of layman terms as we can provide. So I'm going to do this. We'll let Steve kick this off. I think we did it last time with Andrew. So yeah, we'll just bring up ideas and I'll start riffing on them and kind of build kind of a case towards what she was speaking on. So Steve.
All right, here I go. Well, I was going to say, for me, what I got from the podcast, I'm not going to, I guess, be super specific, just more of a generalization. What I thought was really cool was she talked as if she were speaking to really fit people and then on the other side of the spectrum as well. So I think that's what's really cool about our conversation today is it could be applied all the way across the board. So what she mentioned before was, at least in the beginning of the podcast, she was talking about VO2 maxes and the ability to reverse aging depending on that factor in particular, if you're able to increase it, which, by the way, what is a VO2 max, Galen?
So Steve and I had it wasn't a debate, it was mostly a conversation about what it really indicates, what does it measure. Obviously it's your ability to exercise at a certain rate, but turns out it is your body's, I was thinking about a metaphor and analogy on the way here if we got into this, and
Here we are.
it's our body's ability to utilize and uptake oxygen while exercising, and it's a measure of essentially your respiration. What percentage of your respiration is carbon dioxide, and then the percentage of oxygen that you can actually pull, use, and utilize while also maintaining a certain physical output. So it's efficiency with your breathing. Like while you're breathing, how much oxygen of the air that you're intaking are you able to use? That's the way I understand it. So my thinking was, you can loosely draw a line of analogy between how efficiently are you using your budget of money. Like you can spend your money in really poor ways or really good ways. You can You can exercise in a way that allows you to utilize oxygen in a good way or not. And obviously what we would steer you guys towards is an increase or exercising in a way that supports an increase in VO2 max, because an increase in VO2 max correlates with an increased life
expectancy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the cool thing was the higher you're able to get that and build that, the more your all-cause mortality would go down all across the board. And then she kind of delved into some ways to basically get that up, whether it be vigorous exercise like what we do, high intensity output for at least, 3 times a week, something like that. And then she talked about sauna as well. So that's another way of kind of climbing up that ladder. And like I said before, this goes for people that don't train at all, don't exercise. A matter of fact, a lot of the podcasts or her talk, she was mentioning, for people that don't train at all. So those people, as well as people who vigorously exercise on the upper end. And I thought that was really cool, because not everything has to be 100 miles per hour all out all the time. But of course, we don't want to be completely at zero as well. So, and again, another thing that was really cool was you could be older and you could have went through, quite a bit through your life as far as health-wise. You could have been very sedentary that entire time, and you still have time to reverse a lot of that, which I thought was super cool. And again, is a big testament to the body. And so that's mostly what I got from it, was just an all-encompassing viewpoint of how to fight mortality, fight death.
And I'll throw in some stats there, what Steve's talking about. So they took people who were sedentary and had a less than normal VO2 max, and if they could raise it up to normal, that increased their life by 2.1 years. If you go 2.1 years, and then if you go from below normal to a high normal VO2 max, that's 3 years increased in your life. And if you go from below normal to elite, basically hard training, like they said, interval training 3 to 4 times a week, 5 years added to your life expectancy. Steve was talking about the 80% reduction of all-cause mortality. It basically means you won't die from heart disease, diabetes, stuff like that. You may get hit by a bus, but nothing like that. But 80% reduction, and people with below VO2 max had similar risk of death than someone with diabetes and cardiovascular. So if you sit at the house, even though you don't have one of those two, you're in the same health as those people who do. So if you have someone at the house that's sitting around doing nothing, maybe pass this along to them and at least get them moving a little bit first.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those concepts that some people look at someone and based on their physical appearance assume health. And that isn't necessarily the case. Like, they might be fairly lean in the body mass scale, but that doesn't necessarily mean if they're, for example, have a low VO2 max, but are absent of cardiovascular disease or diabetes, that still doesn't mean you're all squared away or you're good to go.
Skinny people have heart attacks as well.
Yeah, well, and what I thought was interesting was how she mentioned increasing the VO2 max helps and what it adds onto your life. But then, like you said, in reverse, and she mentioned the fact that in some cases, you might as well be smoking, essentially, which I thought that was crazy. The fact that if your VO2 max is super low or you're super sedentary, you might as well be out here lighting up Marlboros, which I thought was very interesting.
It was akin to smoking, right?
Yes.
Life expectancy was akin to smoking.
Yes.
Galen posted today, if you go look at the post today that has Abram on it, 2-year study, they had 50-year-old males, and sedentary males, that is, and they started including high-intensity interval training like we do it here 3 days a week with some zone 2 work. They had a 20-year reduction in aging of the heart.
The heart muscle itself softened and increased its capacity by 20 years. So
Yeah, became more malleable, correct?
I mean, you don't need to say anything else. Like, you can literally drink from Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth by exercising for 2 years, and you reverse age your heart by 2 decades, like longer than we've been in business.
That's a pretty good
By
return.
you don't like. There needs to be a win when you're exercising. Like, there's got to be a win, but if there's a win, endless iteration of wins, I don't see how you can ever argue against exercise in any way, in any capacity, until it becomes a damaging overtraining.
Yes, and they did say
which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, and they did say that zone 2 by itself, or a steady state cardio that people just kind of get comfortable and go do, or just they brought up yoga as well. Doing yoga
and stuff like that, where your heart rate kind of stays the same, will not raise your VO2 max. You'll get to a certain point and you're going to plateau. So you have to have that vigorous, intense exercise to help raise that ceiling, which I thought was interesting. Greg Glassman again. There we go.
Variety is the spice of all life.
Exactly right.
Stasis is stasis for a reason, so you need to push in different directions to experiment with other forms of stasis.
Something that comes to mind too, because there's always some naysayers that'll probably hear those studies and be like, well, I don't want to have to go through those hard things for 2 years on my life. When I'm 80, I don't care if I die at 82 or 84. But if that's your mindset, and that's fine, some people have that mindset. If that's your mindset, you can also assume, or you would have to assume, that with an increase in VO2 max, quality of life drastically increases from day to day.
So yeah, maybe discuss the difference between health span and lifespan. You ready for that one?
No.
So lifespan is very binary. How long do you live?
I see. Okay, yeah. So pretty much where I was.
Health span is how well do you live throughout that lifespan. And if you can narrow the gap between lifespan and health span, then I think that's what everyone absolutely should aspire towards. So my goal is to, I don't want to use the analogy, but to live as in by all means, by all degrees of whatever I want to express outside the gym as long as I possibly can. And when I can't, boop, I'm done. That's what I'm going to just fall over into the grave as I finish a hard something.
Yeah.
And who knows what that'll be, what age that'll be. But my goal is to match those spans as best as I can so that they're an equal.
It's like have a few bad days, not a few years worth of.
Yeah, like Peter Attia calls it the marginal decade.
Yeah.
The last 10 years of your life might not look like you want, but if you work on these things early, that marginal decade might turn into a marginal half decade. It might turn into a marginal few.
I love that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's good. It's good. We were on the same page. I just
awesome.
was lacking the verbiage.
One other thing she added in there, when you exercise intensely, obviously your heart rate's going to be up, so you're pushing more blood through your circulatory system. Talked about that blood pressure actually kills cancer cells because the sheer force will hit the cancer cells and they can't maintain their structure like a normal cell does, which is really interesting that exercises is one of the number one preventative things you can do for cancer. So think about that.
Yeah, she kind of dug into it because it seemed like the tumor cells associated with the cancer, if it's localized in the body, have the ability to like fluff off and like start elsewhere. That's the reason when you hear people that are deep into cancer, it spreads through their body rather rapidly, as they start to break down and degrade. But yeah, to your point, just the rapid increase in blood pressure and volume of blood circulating. And you can imagine now your vessel is turned into a raceway of this stuff going fast through there and kind of bumping off of itself. The tumor cells,
She calls it circulating tumor cells.
get broken up or damaged to the point where they're no longer viable to spread the tumor or the cancer throughout the body. That was fascinating.
By the way, what kind of training does that mean 100 burpees a day, every day? Like, what are we looking at?
She said higher intensity interval training was the best, like 3 to 4 days a week, with also say zone 2, like aerobic days like we had today.
Meat vegetables, well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to put this on a tee for these boys because it's funny. They were way ahead of their time, even though they didn't know. And I wasn't a part of it at the time, but I hear the stories and I thought it's funny. But she brought it up and you guys can expand on it. And that's exercise snacks.
Hold that thought because we got to stop the video. Exercise snacks.
So exercise snacks. And now these guys were quite young in their adventure to create this gym. And maybe I would say this lightly, the dollars were less than free flowing.
We were poor.
We
didn't know the difference. We were rich in life. We were poor in financial bank account status, but we were rich with idea.
That was probably free in and of itself.
Yeah.
So what did you guys do as nutritional and exercise adventures?
Hey, we were young kids, and we were like trying anything. Like we were talking about Tim Ferriss the other day. My first podcast I ever listened to was Tim Ferriss, and like if you haven't listened to Tim Ferriss podcast, please do it. Full of wealth. He was talking about. He's one of the first people we heard Peter Attia talk, who is like now a world-renowned expert on a lot of things. But this was 13, 14 years ago. We were listening to this, and we were poor, opening the gym, and so what we do to save money. Yeah, she's not happy.
She wants to hear Tim Ferriss right now.
So we were poor up at the gym, and two things we would do, we would pig out on Saturdays, so we'd train really hard at the gym on Saturdays, and we'd go to Golden Corral or Pizza Inn, and we would just demolish buffets. But what we do, Ron Patrick talked about, and Tim Ferriss talked about this years ago, if you do some sort of intense exercise right before, you're not going to be able to store that excess sugar or calories as fat. Your body's going to use it because you did it. So Gayla, Trista, who else?
Steve did it too.
Steve did it. We would go out the parking lot at Pizza Inn or Golden Corral, 75 to 100 air squats as fast as we can. We'd go pee out. Then we'd come back out, 75 air squats as fast as we
I
can.
bet the latter ones are way tougher. Make you want to throw up.
But we never,
It's great though.
never gained weight.
Time.
Never gained weight. But she talks about doing that throughout the day. Like if you know you're going to eat, like Steve's talked about staying efforting his walks afterwards.
Yeah.
Which I think that's varying depending on your fitness level as well. Staying efforting is probably not a cardio monster, so walking is probably a little bit harder for him. So you may need to do something a little bit more depending on your fitness level.
She said something like a minute of burpees.
Yeah, it'd be easy. Take the steps.
Like she does running high knees. You can hear her. We didn't watch it, but you can hear her lose her breath and everything. She gets a round of applause.
She's the example. If you work in an office building, obviously you've heard this 1,000 times, but take the steps, run the steps. I know it's crazy, but maybe depending on your fitness level, running the steps might be what it takes to rev the engine. She said to get to 70% max heart rate.
Yeah.
Those are good little sweet spots to be able to provide those effects. I thought the physiology was fascinating about what actually happens. Did you guys catch on to that? Instead of using insulin as a signaling molecule or a signaling hormone to, hey, muscle, take sugar in, insulin, that's insulin's job, and then it in turn does it. Your muscle has the ability, under vigorous activity,
Lactate.
yeah, and through the signaling of lactate to directly absorb sugar without it being brought in via the insulin signal. So I thought that was very fascinating. So your body can pull out blood sugar absent of insulin.
Correct.
When it's available, which helps to regulate and avoid those big spikes, peaks, and valleys that we talk about being bad. So
Had she mentioned how many snacks a day? 3 or 4?
she drew. I don't think she said a limit on that. Yeah.
We were driving through the Monson, so we were
Sure. The more the merrier.
Yeah,
Sure.
snack.
That's what I like. And also, if you watch competitive exercise, you watch CrossFit, the first thing they do after they have a workout, one, they hop on a bike to cool down, and then 2, they take in some sort of carb source because they need that muscle glycogen in there. So
Yeah, and it's going right in. Yeah, it's going right in. Well, we're on nutrition, so one thing I found fascinating, something that I always do a poor job of, and it's stuff we always hear in the fitness space. You've probably heard a coach tell you that 100 times as well. And she just circled back to the importance of protein intake and the shift in the science or the research or the understanding of what a good recommended daily allowance of protein is. And she dug into it and then explained a lot of the benefits and the whys and the hows. But essentially, we base our recommended protein intake in the United States on she called flawed study from over 40 years ago at this point. The numbers that she presented from that study that we still use to this day are 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, so less than a gram of protein per kilogram. Not to be confused with per pound, which is what a lot of people hear, and they're like, that's a lot. If you're eating per pound, you're probably in good shape.
what you need.
Yeah, you're in good shape. But the RDA is 0.8, so less than a gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. And again, generated from a flawed study that was actually done in kids or your younger individuals that are better at absorbing, it sounded like, that protein. Good.
Was it based on amino acid structure, essentially? Something
Well-
like that, how frequently or how much the body needed to build, which that's the building blocks of protein, by the way.
Yeah, so downstream effects of that, if you aren't getting adequate amounts of protein, your body has a really good way of finding protein. So the muscle tissue that you thought you had might not be there any longer if you are consistently under consuming protein, because it'll start to break down muscle tissue to find the amino acids. Reason for that is, I venture to say, nearly every process in the body is catalyzed by protein. So just building muscle is not the only thing protein does. Development of hormones, building muscle repair issues and damages in the body, and so many more things are performed as a result of protein. So long story short, what the new science is shifting towards is at least 1.2 grams per kilogram, which still is on the lower side of things. If you're a very active individual, it's 1.6. And if you're an elite performing individual, that can continue to climb. So we're talking, if you're 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, you're probably in a sweet spot. Jay's doing some math here.
It'd be 132 grams of protein for me at the lower end, which
It's still seemingly low. Yeah, seemingly low. And it's one of those things where it seems like if there's that many processes in the body that are responsible or use protein to properly function, then the more the merrier.
Yeah, think about it, even like gluconeogenesis. So like where carbs are absent,
Yeah.
protein can actually step in.
Turned into energy.
Yeah.
G, what did you call it on Edie's podcast?
So I was gonna button it up with that idea. Regardless of your stance on protein, there's a new line of thinking, or maybe it's just a philosophy that's called the protein hypothesis, which means, in general, we animals, the human beings that we are, eat food until we satisfy a baseline need for protein. So if you can hedge, knowing that your body likely has this need that it craves, whether you're aware of it or not, certain levels of protein to be hormonally and muscularly and support all the systems that lean heavily into amino acid utilization, then you probably will be less hungry, less often. Eat more protein, AKA eat more protein. It's never, and I don't care if you eat meat, if you eat vegetables or whatever it is you do. I'm not religious about food anymore, but I was. Eat protein.
Yeah.
Satisfy the protein needs, likely you won't overeat on other calories. So you won't seek out protein in the form of a cupcake.
Right. And that makes perfect sense. Because how many times can you eat a lot of lean protein and then want a lot more after?
Right.
How does
It's more satisfying, it's more satiating, it's obviously more nutritious for most of us who are in the gym exercising.
It's also, I was gonna say, it's also thermogenic. So the body will heat up, burns off more calories that way, or at least gets the body to meet.
You talking about the meat sweats?
We down 50%.
Exactly, yeah.
Insert Theo.
Sweat of meat. Oh, shout out Theo Vaughn. I know you're listening.
A good,
The only thing.
it's hilarious. A good place, guys. If you don't start, we have the FIST protocol. Like if you do 3 to 5 meals a day, it's FIST protocol. You're probably going to get enough depending on your size. And also the zone diet, they would do the 0.7 or 0.8 per gram of pound of body weight, not kilograms like Tara's talking about. That seems to be a little bit more accurate, all the way up to a gram. You see bodybuilders, they're doing a gram to a gram and a half per pound of body weight. So these, yeah, I'll probably get 180-ish, I would say, a day.
That's about for land too.
Yeah,
So moral of the story is listen to the bro science and eat more protein.
exactly.
Let's go.
And get those.
Let's go.
Not these.
Don't listen to the government. Okay?
That's hilarious.
Oh,
Cool. What else did she unpack that we want to dive into?
I thought it was just cool that she was at the CrossFit Health Thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And if you know us and you know the Bristol location,
Sauna.
The sauna is
more stuff down the line. There we go. You guys are on
Attaboy.
top of it. You've heard us also make plugs for sauna. If you've ever listened to Rhonda Patrick, she is big into deliberate heat and cold exposure. She leans a lot into the heat exposure research. So yeah, let's dig into sauna.
What type of sauna? That's a good way to start, I think, personally.
Both. Sounds like both.
Infrared
Depends
or
on the amount of time you have.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you have access to. Don't shy away from one or the other. If you have access to it, get hot and sweat. That
She
was
even
my big takeaway.
referenced hot tub.
Yeah, and you can take a hot bath.
Right.
It's less the sauna and more your body's response to the heat that you're after. And the same thing with cold. But how do you expose your body to heat without trying to fit yourself into an oven on a low preheat? So if you can sauna, then sauna. If you can get in hot water up and submerge up to your neck, do that. But the benefit is it's the miming of exercise that the heat provides with your body. So then you have the increase in blood pressure, you have the increase in heart rate, your circulation of things increase. It mimics exercise without having to do exercise. We're not saying that you don't exercise because you have a sauna.
So I could
I want
sauna.
to be very clear. I told you this. I want to be very clear. It is a supplement to your exercise program, just like vitamin C is a supplement to the fruits and vegetables that you're eating. Okay, it is not to replace exercise. Just complement your efforts.
And the biggest effect that she talked about the studies having on people was ones that did exercise into the sauna
yeah.
afterwards. Yeah, that was the biggest effect,
Just an extension of that exercise stimulus, if you ask me.
which is awesome. We have a lot of people here who do it, and
Yeah.
It's tough.
The ones that do it is some of the fitter people in the gym, like, and the strongest people in the gym. So it obviously pays off.
And most recovered people in the gym. Shout out, Michael.
Dude, Michael, you're freaking boss. Wish I had your hair.
Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Also watching.
He's watching for sure.
It's the, Michael is the
Isn't Ed's brother?
Michael Jordan of recovery.
Shit.
Oh my God.
Ed Sheeran, shout out Ed. I know you're in there too.
Hey, we're killing it.
So, the horse is dead.
What are the benefits of doing the sauna? Like, what happens while you're in there? What's going on?
Well, as Galen said, I'm going to piggyback off of it. It's just a carryover from a conditioning standpoint. Your body has to start working quite hard to be able to try its best to keep you and your internal organs at safe operating temperatures. So it starts circulating blood at a very high level. If you follow your heart rate monitor in there and you walk in at 110, it might even climb to 130 by the time you're out of there. If you walk in at 180, you might be able to walk it down a little bit. Good luck. You might hang out up there.
I can't
for a
imagine
long
walking
time.
out there at 180.
Finishing Monday, walking straight in.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I'd have melted.
So yeah, there's mine. That was good. Took care of the easy one.
There's another one. Steve, you want to say something?
I was going to say, she mentions heat shock proteins. So that's something that kind of happens. Same thing what he's saying. It's the same process. So the body is still responding to a stress. Heat is still a stress, just like working out's a stress. And so these heat shock proteins, there's a lot of new science about it as far as recovering. And then on top of that, of course, the synthesis of protein, like we talked about before, and what all it does. So,
You mean to tell me that the protein does other stuff in the body?
oh, bro,
It'll just build your muscles?
it's way, yeah, I was just saying, it's way beyond my mental capacity.
What would you tell someone who's like, I just don't like protein? What would you tell them, Steve?
Do you like
I guess
to
you
brush
don't.
your teeth?
You don't like quality of life. I was just saying, you don't like quality of life. So
Who loves to brush their teeth? You just have to do it. That doesn't absolve you from your responsibility to take care of yourself.
that's right.
I like it. Like it.
Still salty about Cindy.
Cindy never brushed her teeth.
Cavities.
One of the things, it's been over a week since I listened to the podcast, but it was, she talked about EPA, DHA, basically.
Fish oil.
Yeah, fish oil, omega-3s.
Yeah, that was really
about basically, how do I word it? Decreasing muscle atrophy. So basically the breakdown of your muscles. So if you're taking an adequate amount of fish oil, which is got to be a good quality. If you go to Walmart and you get just plain fish oil, it's garbage. Okay, so get something good that's high in EPA and DHA. You can look at the back, probably a gram per serving. That's those two combined. But talked about how it would help the breakdown of muscle. Steve was talking about not having enough protein, your muscle break it down. If you have enough EPA and DHA, you can kind of combat that a little bit.
Yeah, that was fast.
Yeah, she said it blunted atrophy.
Yes.
essentially.
But it also has that there's a 4-week buildup period.
And it was a high dose.
It's 2 grams at a minimum, and they need to be mostly
DHA.
oceanic based, so coming from some form of seafaring animal, DHA, EPA. If you add those two numbers together, that's ultimately the 2 grams that you want. So Steve and I did a little intel research on our drive here. He takes a really high dose, and it comes in 3 pills in a serving. And I want to say he gets 4 grams of fish oil, but he gets over the 2 gram, which she says is kind of like the minimum effective dose of the EPA, DHA combined. So look at the back. Jay and I used to use this thing called the Rob Wolf fish oil calculator. You could buy the low quality stuff from Walmart, but we ended up taking 13, 14, 15 pills. It wasn't worth the time. And you're just sitting there
Mark
swallowing.
Reed was.
If you all be
Nasty burps, man.
interested in getting some fish oil, I have a partnership with Thorg, and we can get it. And they have they have one, I think, 1 pill's over a gram, and it's a normal size. But it's more expensive. But I get the ones, I think it's 2 pills are right at a gram, and I'll take those twice a day.
What brand do you take?
Thorg.
Thorn? Okay.
Is that today's sponsor?
Nordic Naturals, Swansea.
Thorg actually good as well, yeah.
Momentum makes a good one. I don't remember the brand of the one you were taking, but it was really highly rated.
Yeah, I know it was on Amazon, not expensive. The Nordic one you can find at Whole Foods. I've seen it.
You get an
I buy
Amazon
mine
too.
on Amazon. It's grab and save.
So it's
There you
good.
go.
One thing I will say, if you're on blood thinners, talk to your doctor first, because fish oil or omega-3s will thin your blood, so that you don't want that. Or if you're a police officer or going to go fight in Ukraine or something like that, you don't want to get shot, because it's going to be a lot harder to stop that blood.
Brain will work better too.
Brain will work a lot better, yes. Fish oil is great.
That's what I noticed. That's my biggest notice with omega-3 versus not having omega-3. Brain fog. seems less frequent.
The reason why evolving, we were hunter-gatherers. We ate off the land basically, which had more omega-3s in our foods. And now we're more processed in the stores. And omega-6s kind of drown that out. That ratio is way off. Let's talk about the Raw Wolf calculator. They had like a kind of body weight, age, calorie intake that you could kind of play around with to see your adequate type. But
And enter the actual facts of what the pill you had was taking,
Yeah.
and it would do the math for you.
it was cool. Yeah. I think he took it off his website.
He did. It's not there anymore.
Okay.
Come on, Rob.
Right. Speaking of,
You watch it.
Rob and Tim Ferriss, like talk about people who were ahead of their time.
Yes.
There's a country song that says "Willie beat me to it," like every country singer sings. Like, oh, Willie already sang about that. Oh, he sang about that too.
Yeah.
Rob and Tim Ferriss beat everyone there, if you ask me. And
Greg Glassman, I would say it was in their three, yeah.
for sure. Karen mentioned we're not the smartest in the room. I would 100% agree with that. But our responsibility is making sure we're in the right room, and that's what we want to help you guys do. Make sure you're in the right room, listening to the right voices. Not our voices, but our voices might be like, look over there to your right.
Yeah.
We're kind of like a tour guide.
There's Dr.
We didn't create the information, we didn't build the structures, but we understand some of this stuff in a way that, well, that we think you should also understand. So I see. Like it.
Perfect.
Hey, by the way, real quick, I was going to say there was a study, talking about fish oil a second ago. There was a study based off. You guys ever noticed that like all your CrossFit female champions at least are some daughter of some kind, all from Iceland. World's strongest man from Iceland. The most world's strongest men are from Iceland, and so there was a study about their food source, and so like the fresh fish on the coast.
Like this.
So I thought that was really cool as well.
Old school Zone Diet, Greg Glassman and Barry Sears, who started the Zone Diet. That's how it kind of got brought into. They had the world's fattest man in Mexico. They put him on Zone Diet, high-dose fish oil. At 500 pounds, he had like a blood pressure of, I think, 120 over 80. Like his A1C was good, his resting glucose, as he was losing that weight with Zone Diet and high-dose fish oil. They also did studies with kids in ADHD.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? They did, kids that have ADHD, now they sort of write you a prescription for Adderall because they're lazy. But they would give kids higher dose fish oil and realize that they were just missing something. Those kids went from D students not paying attention to A students and being okay, which is really interesting. Guys, there's so much stuff that we've read back today that I wish I could just pull out.
It's not there.
You know,
It's there, but less categorized than we want it. I want it on file. Steve mentioned something I thought was interesting. It's also true in the animal world. Where's Iceland relative to the equator? To the equator.
Pretty far away.
Yeah. Animals, as you move north or south from the equator, grow larger and are stronger. Humans may be the same way.
really?
I wonder if that's related to heat.
It has to be related to heat for sure, and resilience and robustness, and you know, probably having to have excess body weight to survive harsh conditions.
Galen's ancestors actually grew up in Antarctica.
These little spindly things.
That's hilarious.
Nonetheless, I don't know if that's related, but interesting. It's
cool.
Yeah, to mind us.
What I'm like.
All right, well, that was kind of what we had came up with as far as things we wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully you took a few pieces of that information and can apply them day to day and maybe understand them a little bit better. We're going to continue down this track. We think that it's probably the most beneficial for you folks. As Galen said, we want to be the moderator for you and hopefully filter in some good information so that you can use it in day-to-day life. We're all busy. You're even more busy than we are. So hopefully this helps to condense it and make it more available to you. So with that, we'll just highlight real quick. Remember, we do have baby shower coming up. So see the links in the Sunday brief. And then we have the stair climb around the corner as well, and the Bristol burnout. So all that information could be found either in our announcements page or in the Sunday brief. Tune into those. If you have any recommendations, if you come across a podcast that you think might be interesting and you get started but can't quite wade through it and maybe want us to try to wade through, that might be a good option as well. So
Thank you, Robin, for sending this and making me listen to
Robin
this.
got that one?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Robin. So throw it our way, and if it fits and we think we can convey that properly to you, then you might see it in a podcast near you. But with that said, we will go ahead and sign off. See you guys.
Happy August.
Thanks for tuning in. Happy August.